So I really do think that DC should run with the whole idea of targeting a more mature audience. I've discussed this both publicly, privately with my bros, just sort of theorizing. And I think, if anything, the Joker film showed that this is an avenue that DC could go and they could see some success, right? That's what it's about. They can see some success. I'm not oblivious to the fact that there's advantages to making a PG-13 film. You're going to be able to get more people in the box office on that alone. Well, that's the theory, right? More people have access to it, as opposed to gearing something towards adult and you only really get to capture their dollar. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Certainly if you can maximize it because it's more geared towards a mature audience. We know DC has the Black Label thing, which obviously targets more mature audiences. Covered some of those books. Do I have any back here? I do actually. Yeah, I got a couple. So we have Gordon. We'll take a look at it, and we have Curse of the White Knight. Which book is this? Book 3, third book, Curse of the White Knight, Black Label. And what you'll see, for those that don't know, I don't know if I can zoom in, if you can see it. Is it gonna auto correct there? If you can see it, there it is. There it is. So you see that little label on a lot of books that DC's putting out to make it separate from what you think exists more so in their main universe. DC Black Label is a little offshoot. And y'all know I'm not that always a bigger fan of. I'm not always a big fan of those sort of alternative or different universes, right? But I do understand why they made that. I do understand that they created it. Now, if DC were to do this with like a future universe, I think there would be a lot of advantages to it, specifically because comic book film media is getting to a peak because of what we've seen with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even with some of the universes, the successes that DC even had with the Arrowverse. We're seeing more people interested in it. So there's an avenue there. You can capitalize on that. I'm 100% for that. But when it comes to movie, more specifically, though we know that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going into TV outside of like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because of Disney Plus. They have all these shows that are lining up. What DC can do to set themselves apart from Marvel is to not replicate what Marvel's doing, which is what I fear they are always trying to do, and basically get a cohesive universe, which I'm all for it. I want to see a shared universe with some of my favorite characters. I'm 100% for that. That is exactly what I want. That's what comic books is all about. However, they are always going to be behind, considering that Marvel beat them to the punch with the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they have to do something that they don't need to copy it. They need to do something that sort of distinguishes them from the competition. You know what Stan Lee called them? DC. That's what it stood for. But I think that certainly seeing some of the reactions from the Joker movie, this will be a great idea. They should just go all in on that. It's risky, I admit. And they're not going to capture the same audiences as the guys that love their little beloved Marvel Cinematic Universe, certainly because of its appeal. But that's okay. What you can do is possibly maximize getting that more mature audience. You may not see some of the box office numbers, but yeah, actually, you may see that. You actually may see that because you've been able to maximize, because you've said, hey, guys, that want to be adults, you want somewhere to go with your lady, you want to check these movies out, something that's going to appeal to you, something you don't need kids, something that's for you, We got you. And it doesn't have to be, if they're going to be drawing from the source material, I'm not saying they should just grab all the books in the let's say like Black Label stuff. They don't have to do that. I'm not advocating that they do that. They can absolutely do some stories that stem from main universe DC. No matter what era you want to go, they can just have a more mature spin on it. To me, that was always the appeal as I got older, and this is why I fell more in love with DC as I aged. And it's because the book seemed more for me. I mean, Gotham is dark, you see some of the cutthroat villains that exist. It's not to say that Marvel doesn't have their Punishers and of the world, and because they do, but it's just a different feel, a different atmosphere, especially when you're dealing with Batman and some of those characters. It just feels more mature. That can be used as their advantage, especially because Disney has said that they don't want to make rated R Marvel films, which makes me scared of what they're going to do with, like, let's say, Punisher. I don't know how that's going to work out. But DC could come out and say, you know what? That ain't our approach, or Warner, whoever is doing the movies for DC, can say that's not going to be our approach. In fact, we're going to do the complete opposite. We're going to make a more mature movie. We're going to make a more these appeal to a lot more mature audiences. And that isn't to even say that you can't have movies that exist within that universe that aren't maybe PG-13. But I would think that if there's something that you can capture if you go the rated R route, and that's where I think DC should go. I think, if anything, they should see the reaction and the success that they may be getting in terms of appeal with Joker, though that's a standalone sort of one-off film. I think there's something to be had there. There's some success to be had. So if I were DC, that's exactly what I would do. If I were DC, I would just say, you know what? We are going to put out we're going to have this extended universe within film, maybe even bring some TV shows. But instead of running away, like what Marvel's doing from the rated R films, we're going to run towards it. So that's going to be our appeal. Like I said, I do not think that they should be trying to go the route of simply trying to replicate what Marvel has done with their universe. They need to do something that can separate them, because by doing that is what you have now. A bunch of crazed Marvel MCU stans that don't even want to see DC be successful. DC can put out a decent movie, which I believe they have. But because it's not Marvel, even some of these guys don't even read comics, but because it's not the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they are quick to dog it because they feel like they have to take sides. I never felt that way. Y'all know on this channel, it's like whatever. DC, Marvel, I may prefer one to the other in certain instances when it comes to certain characters, but I don't feel like I have to choose a side between the two. I don't have any problem enjoying both of them. You know what I mean? Or calling them both out when they do something silly. But that's what happens when you try to copy them. That's going to be your measure. That's going to be your benchmark. Everybody's going to have that expectation. So instead of trying to replicate what they do, I think DC should just go the route of saying, you know what? We are just going to do our own thing. And while DC runs away from the rated R movies, we're going to run right to them.